Cecilia Mitchell never imagined that life could become so difficult. The daughter of immigrants, she grew up in a small neighborhood in Houston, Texas, where she learned the value of hard work from an early age. He lost his father when he was just 12 years old, and since then he has worked various jobs to help his mother support the family. Now, at 35, after the death of her mother and the end of a long and abusive relationship, Cecilia finds herself alone, with no one to trust, and with little. Desperate for a new opportunity, she takes a job as a maid at the mansion of William Parker, a lonely millionaire who lives on a huge estate on the outskirts of Dallas. The mansion, known locally as the Silent House, was imposing and surrounded by an air of mystery. They said that William was an eccentric and suspicious man who rarely left home and never trusted anyone. For Cecilia, however, that job represented a chance to start over and perhaps get her life back on track. On the first day, Cecilia realized that life in that house would be very different from anything she had ever experienced. William Parker, a tall, elegant man with gray hair and a stern look, greeted her with formality but without any sign of human warmth. He instructed her on her daily tasks and made it clear that he would not tolerate mistakes. "I pay well, but I expect the job to be done perfectly," he said, in a voice that left no room for doubt. The weeks passed, and Cecilia dedicated herself to keeping the mansion immaculate. However, she couldn't help but notice her boss's attentive gaze, always watching her from afar, as if waiting for her to make a mistake. One morning, while cleaning the master bedroom, Cecilia found something that intrigued her: an incredibly valuable diamond necklace, carelessly tossed on the dresser. The shine of the stones made her catch her breath. For a moment, she was overcome with conflicting thoughts. With the money that necklace was worth, he could solve all his problems. He could pay off his debts, move to a better place, and even start a small business, something he always dreamed of. But at the same time, I knew that giving in to temptation could mean the end of everything I was trying to rebuild. The dilemma tormented her for hours. Cecilia spent the day distracted, unable to concentrate on her tasks. That night, she could barely sleep, tossing and turning as she wondered what she should do. Returning the necklace seemed like the right choice. But what if it was a test? What if William Parker was waiting to see if she really could be trusted? The next morning, with a heavy heart, Cecilia decided to face the situation head-on. After finishing the morning cleaning, he went to the millionaire's office. He was sitting at the table, carefully reading some documents. When Cecilia entered, he looked up and stared at her with an unreadable expression. "Mr. Parker, I found this in your room," she said, holding out the necklace toward him. "I think it must have fallen out of the drawer." William watched her in silence for a moment that seemed to last an eternity. Finally, he took the necklace from her hands without saying a word and placed it back in the drawer. His face remained impassive, but there was something different in his gaze. "You made the right choice, Cecilia," he said, his voice softer than usual. "And you just passed the first test." Cecilia was confused, not knowing whether she should feel relieved or worried. What else could he have planned? She didn't know, but from that moment on, life in that mansion would never be the same. After the necklace incident, Cecilia began to realize that nothing in the Parker mansion was as simple as it seemed. William Parker, although he always maintained a reserved posture, began to trust her with more personal tasks. He put her in charge of organizing important documents, making specific purchases, and occasionally, even receiving visitors, something rare in that isolated house. Despite the new responsibilities, Cecilia felt that she was constantly being tested. Every task William gave him seemed to be a new opportunity for him to measure his integrity. Tension was building inside her, but she knew she had to keep going. This job was his only chance to escape the difficult life he had left behind. One morning, while cleaning the mansion's basement, Cecilia found a large old safe hidden behind a pile of boxes. She didn't know how, but she felt that that safe held something important. His instinct told him to leave everything as it was, but his curiosity was uncontrollable. There was something enigmatic about that safe, something that seemed to call to her. Days later, William summoned her to his office for a conversation. He was sitting in his leather armchair, a glass of wine in his hand. "Cecilia," he began, "I have one last task for you. If you pass this, you will have my complete trust." She stared at him, not knowing what to expect. "What do you need me to do?" William stood up, slowly walking to the window. "There's something stored in the basement that I need you to retrieve. You'll find an old safe. The combination is 03-1970. Bring whatever you find inside directly to me." Cecilia's heart raced. It was the same safe she had found. Why was William asking her to open it? Was this another test? He had no choice but to obey, but he felt this task was different from the previous ones, more dangerous in some way. Going down the stairs towards the basement, Cecilia's mind was in turmoil. She entered the combination into the safe with shaking hands, and after a heavy click, the door opened. Inside was a single item, a thick manila envelope with the name Eliza Parker handwritten on it. Who was Eliza? And why did William want her so desperately? Cecilia hesitated for a moment. He was one step away from discovering something that clearly had great meaning for William. But he knew his task was to hand over the envelope without question. As he held the envelope, he felt a growing tension, as if the fate of that family was now in his hands. When she returned to William's office, he was standing, waiting for her with a stern expression. Cecilia handed over the envelope, trying to hide her anxiety. William took it and, with a nod, dismissed her without saying a word. In the following days, William became more distant, immersed in his own thoughts. Cecilia tried to continue with her routine, but the atmosphere in the house had changed. It seemed like a dark secret was about to be revealed. One night, while finishing her tasks, Cecilia heard voices coming from William's office. Curious, she silently approached the half-open door. William was in a heated argument on the phone. "I won't allow this to happen again," he said in an emotion-filled voice. "I already lost Eliza once, I won't lose her again." William's words echoed in Cecilia's mind. Who was Eliza? The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember where. However, he knew he was approaching something that could change everything. Days later, while cleaning the library, Cecilia found an old photograph hidden in one of the books. It was a photo of William, many years younger, next to a beautiful woman with a radiant smile. On the back of the photo it said, "William and Eliza, Summer 1995. Suddenly, everything made sense. Eliza was William's wife, and from the looks of it, there was something about her that still tormented the millionaire to this day. Cecilia began to realize that the tests William put her through were not just about her honesty, but also about her loyalty and ability to keep secrets. He was desperately trying to protect something or someone, and Cecilia found herself in the middle of this emotional storm. Determined to discover the truth and help William find peace, Cecilia knew that the next step would be crucial. She was determined to not only complete her tasks, but also to understand what was really happening in that mysterious mansion. Summer brought intense heat to Dallas, but inside the Parker mansion, an icy, tense atmosphere took hold. Cecilia, now emotionally involved in William's life, felt increasingly pressured by the circumstances that surrounded her. The name Eliza was constantly in her mind, and the figure of William, increasingly tormented, awakened in her a desire to help, even if she didn't know exactly how. One sultry afternoon, while organizing the library, Cecilia found an old letter hidden between the pages of a book of poetry. The handwriting was delicate, feminine, and the sender was Eliza. Trembling, Cecilia read the letter, which seemed to be a bitter farewell, full of pain and resentment. Eliza spoke of betrayal, of secrets that William had hidden from her, and of the desire to leave and never return. Cecilia felt the weight of that discovery as if it were a stone in her chest. It was clear that the relationship between William and Eliza had been deeply marked by something dark, something he had never been able to overcome. But before he could reflect further on the letter, the library door opened abruptly, revealing William standing there, with a hard and stern expression. "Put it back," he ordered, his voice cold and emotionless. "Now." Frightened, Cecilia obeyed, putting the letter in the book. William approached her, his face a mask of pain and suppressed anger. "I trusted you, Cecilia. And you're poking around where you shouldn't be." Before she could respond, William's phone rang. He answered irritably, but the expression on his face quickly changed from irritation to shock, and then to despair. "No, this can't be happening," he muttered, his voice shaky. Hanging up the phone, William turned to Cecilia, his eyes filled with desperate pleading. "She's back," he said, almost in a whisper. "Eliza is back." The revelation fell like a bomb. Cecilia was speechless, trying to process what William had just said. How could Eliza, who had apparently disappeared years ago, come back? And what did this mean for William? "You need to help me," William begged, his facade of a strong, impenetrable man crumbling before Cecilia's eyes. "Eliza, she's dangerous. I've done things I'm not proud of, and now she's back to destroy everything." Not knowing exactly what she was getting into, but determined to help, Cecilia agreed. "What do I need to do?" William, visibly relieved by Cecilia's acceptance, led her to the office. There, he explained that Eliza had disappeared years ago, after discovering his betrayal. She was never seen again, and many believed her to be dead. However, in recent days, William began receiving threatening messages and calls, insinuating that Eliza was alive and that she was returning to take revenge. The letter that Cecilia had found, as well as the envelope that she handed over earlier, were all linked to this mystery. William believed that Eliza, or someone impersonating her, planned to use secrets from the past to ruin him. He needed to find out who was behind these threats before it was too late. From that moment on, Cecilia found herself involved in a plot of intrigue and mystery. She helped William track down clues, looking for any information that could explain Eliza's return. Meanwhile, the tension between the two increased, and the line between boss and employee began to blur. William began to see Cecilia not just as an employee, but as an ally, someone he could truly trust. As the days passed, the threats intensified. One night, while working late at the mansion, Cecilia heard silent footsteps in the hallway. When he went out to check, he found a note stuck to his bedroom door. "He's lying. You don't know what he did. Leave before it's too late." The note terrified her. Who put it there? And if Eliza really were alive, what terrible secrets did she know about William? The time has come for Cecilia to make a crucial decision. Continue by William's side, helping him discover the truth, or follow the advice in the note and leave the mansion before it is too late. Deep down, she knew that her choice could change their fate forever. Cecilia had never felt so confused. Life at the Parker mansion, which initially seemed like a chance for a fresh start, had become a web of mysteries and lies. The anonymous note she found on her bedroom door deeply disturbed her. Was William really lying? And if he had been, what could he have done that was so terrible? Despite her fear, Cecilia decided not to run away. She felt there was something real in William's desperation, something that made her want to help him, no matter how dangerous it was. Furthermore, the idea of returning to her old life without answers, without knowing what was really happening, was unbearable. In the days that followed, William seemed more agitated than ever. The threats continued, and he spent hours locked in his office, talking on the phone with lawyers and private investigators. Cecilia, in turn, began to investigate on her own. She scoured old documents, correspondence, and anything that could shed light on William and Eliza's past. It was during one of these searches that she found something that would change everything. In an old trunk kept in the attic, Cecilia discovered a diary. It was Eliza's, and the pages were full of contradictory feelings, of love and hate, hope and despair. As she read, Cecilia began to understand the complex relationship that Eliza and William had. They loved each other deeply, but their marriage had been destroyed by secrets and betrayal. In one of her last diary entries, Eliza wrote about discovering something terrible that William had done. She did not give details, but made it clear that, after this discovery, she could not continue living with him. On the last page, Eliza mentioned an encounter she had with a mysterious person, someone who seemed to have compromising information about William. She planned to confront him with this information, but disappeared soon after, leaving no trace. Cecilia was shocked. Reading the diary left her with more questions than answers, but also with new determination. She needed to confront William, she needed to know the truth. But at the same time, I felt like I couldn't fully trust him until I understood what had really happened. One night, while preparing dinner, Cecilia decided it was time to act. She called William to talk in the kitchen, away from the cold, impersonal walls of the office. "Mr. Parker," she began, choosing her words carefully, "I found Eliza's diary." William turned pale, the hand holding the wine glass trembling slightly. "What do you know?" he asked, his voice low and full of tension. Cecilia looked directly into his eyes. "I know she discovered something about you, something that made her want to leave for good. And I know someone helped her. William, you need to tell me the truth. What happened between you?" There was a long silence. William appeared to be battling his own inner demons, his emotions wavering between guilt and despair. Finally, he sat down at the table, burying his face in his hands. "I cheated on Eliza," he confessed, his voice barely audible. "But it wasn't just an ordinary betrayal. I did something unforgivable." With eyes full of tears, William began to tell the story that had been tormenting him for years. Eliza, upon discovering the betrayal, was confronted by William, who desperately tried to stop her from leaving. In a moment of rage and desperation, he used his influence and power to sabotage Eliza's career, destroying her professional life. Eliza, devastated and with no way out, disappeared, leaving behind only pain and regret. "She never forgave me," William murmured, his voice cracking with pain. "And now somehow she's come back with revenge. I don't blame her. I deserve what's coming to me." Cecilia remained silent, absorbing William's confession. Although he had done terrible things, she could also see the weight of guilt he carried. Deep down, William was not the monster he feared he would be, but a broken man, trying to come to terms with the mistakes of his past. Determined to help, Cecilia decided that the only way to resolve the situation was to find Eliza, or whoever was pretending to be her, and try to reconcile the parties. But that wouldn't be easy. The threats became more dangerous every day, and it seemed that someone was willing to destroy William at any cost. Cecilia began to investigate all possible clues. It turned out that Eliza had had a best friend, Vivian, who might have known something about what really happened. With the help of a private detective hired by William, she tracked Vivian to a small town in rural Texas. Vivian was a bitter and suspicious woman, who initially refused to speak to Cecilia. However, after much insistence, she ended up revealing that she knew about Eliza's disappearance, but believed that William had managed to cover everything up. According to Vivian, Eliza had planned to run away and start a new life, but was never able to carry out this plan. Cecilia convinced Vivian to tell everything she knew, hoping that this could bring Eliza to light. The two returned to Dallas, where they planned to meet William to confront him with the new information. The meeting was tense. William, Vivian, and Cecilia sat in the office, each carrying the weight of their own guilt and regrets. Vivian revealed that Eliza was alive and that she had planned to return to destroy William, but that something prevented her from going through with the plan. At that moment, the office door slowly opened and Eliza appeared, older but still with the same intense shine in her eyes. The silence that followed was piercing. Eliza looked at William, then at Cecilia and Vivian. "I came back to seek justice," she said, her voice filled with a strength that had been shaped by years of suffering. "But now I see that revenge will not bring me peace." Eliza said that over the years, she had thought of many ways to destroy William, but when she saw her own pain reflected in his eyes, she realized that revenge would not be enough to heal the wounds. She was willing to make a deal, but it would require William to publicly admit his mistakes and try to repair the damage he caused. Cecilia, in a moment of courage, suggested that they work together to repair the past. William, overcome with guilt and a desire for redemption, agreed to do everything in his power to correct his mistakes. He knew he couldn't erase the past, but perhaps by making peace with Eliza, he could find some form of redemption. Eliza, in turn, accepted the proposal, but made it clear that if William failed to keep his promise, she would not hesitate to destroy what was left of his life. The atmosphere in the Parker mansion was electric. After his unexpected reunion with Eliza, William seemed to be living under a constant cloud of tension and regret. Eliza's words echoed in his mind. "If you fail, I will destroy everything." Cecilia, now more involved than she ever imagined she would be, felt the weight of her own responsibility. She had become the bridge between two worlds, the dark past and a possible future of reconciliation. William began taking concrete steps to repair the damage he had caused. He reached out to Eliza's old acquaintances, people whose careers he had sabotaged, and offered financial compensation and public apologies. Furthermore, he began to support organizations that helped women in vulnerable situations, a way of trying to make amends for what he had done to Eliza. The local press quickly picked up on these changes, and William Parker's transformation began to make news in Dallas, generating both. Despite these actions, Eliza remained distant, watching every movement with a critical eye. She knew that words and public actions were not enough. William needed to show that he was genuinely remorseful and committed to change. Cecilia, on the other hand, was constantly at William's side, guiding him and offering advice. She believed that despite all his past mistakes, William could still find redemption. The culmination of this journey came during a charity gala that William organized in support of the causes he had begun to support. The event would be the final test for William, where he would give a public speech, admitting his past mistakes and talking about the importance of redeeming himself. Cecilia knew that this moment would be crucial, not only for William, but also for Eliza, who was determined to evaluate the sincerity of every word. The night of the event arrived, and the Parker mansion was full of distinguished guests, journalists, and public figures. Cecilia, nervous, helped to ensure that everything was perfect. William, for his part, seemed calm, but she knew that inside he was struggling with every word he had rehearsed for the speech. When the moment arrived, William took the stage. The hall fell silent with all eyes on him. Cecilia, discreetly positioned to the side of the stage, watched intently, feeling the weight of expectation. Eliza, sitting at the back of the room, also watched, her eyes fixed on the man who had been her husband. William began his speech with a firm voice, but with an honesty that surprised everyone. He spoke about his past, about the arrogance and power that blinded him, leading him to make decisions that destroyed lives. He admitted, bluntly, the harm he had caused to Eliza and others. He didn't try to justify himself, he just apologized and promised to keep working to do good and never repeat the same mistakes again. "I know words aren't enough," he said, looking directly at Eliza, who remained motionless. "But I will keep fighting to be a better man. If there's anything the past has taught me, it's that true wealth is not in money, but in the people we hurt, and our ability to redeem ourselves." The hall was silent for a moment after William finished his speech. Then, to everyone's surprise, Eliza got up and started walking towards the stage. Cecilia held her breath, her heart pounding. All eyes were on Eliza as she approached William. When Eliza finally arrived on stage, she stood in front of William, looking into his eyes for a long time. The tension was palpable, and Cecilia felt as if the world had stopped. Finally, Eliza took the microphone that William was still holding. "William," she began, her voice firm, "all these years I have held deep hurt and resentment for everything you did. I came back to destroy you, to make you feel the pain I felt. But seeing you today, I realize that revenge will not bring me the peace I sought so much." She paused, letting her words echo throughout the room. "You did terrible things, and there's no way to erase what happened. But I see that you're trying to change, and so I'm willing to give you a chance. Not for me, but for both of us. What happened is part of what happened. Past, and if I remain stuck with it, I will never have a future." Cecilia felt a wave of relief and emotion wash over her. Eliza's words were received with a mixture of surprise and applause by those present. William, visibly moved, just nodded, unable to find suitable words. Eliza continued, "I don't know what the future holds, but I am willing to try to find a way forward with or without you. However, that will depend on your actions from here on out." The event ended on an unexpected note of hope. William and Eliza talked for a long time after the speech, away from prying eyes. Cecilia watched them from afar, pleased to have played an important role in the attempt at reconciliation. She knew that the road would still be long and difficult, but she felt that finally a new page had been turned in the lives of everyone there. In the days that followed, William continued to work to repair the damage of the past, this time with Eliza by his side, at least as a friend and advisor. Cecilia, in turn, received an unexpected offer. William wanted her to continue working for him, but now as his personal assistant, helping to coordinate the new charitable projects he had started. Cecilia accepted the offer, knowing it meant a new beginning not only for her but also for William and Eliza. And so, with the Parker mansion in a new light, everyone began to build a brighter future together. The months that followed the gala event were marked by profound changes in the lives of William, Eliza, and Cecilia. The Parker mansion, once known for its silence and mystery, was now a place of constant activity. William fulfilled his promises diligently, investing in charitable projects and rebuilding the bridges he had broken over the years. The relationship between William and Eliza remained complex, but there was significant evolution. At first, they maintained a careful friendship, still marked by past wounds, but with a new willingness to forgive. Eliza decided not to return to live in the mansion, preferring to maintain her independence, but she visited the house regularly to collaborate on William's philanthropic projects. Together, they began organizing charity events and creating initiatives to help women who, like Eliza, had. Cecilia, in turn, quickly adapted to her new role as William's personal assistant. She became deeply involved in the causes he now supported, using her own story of resilience as a source of inspiration for other women. Her work was no longer limited to domestic tasks. She was on the front lines, helping to plan and execute the projects that were changing many people's lives. The personal growth he had experienced since entering the mansion was evident. Cecilia had become a confident woman. Kappa, the media, which had initially approached the changes in William's life with skepticism, began to recognize the authenticity of his transformation. Articles began to circulate praising the charitable work he was doing, and little by little, William Parker's image in society changed from that of a cold, calculating man to that of someone who had learned from his mistakes and was determined to make a difference. Meanwhile, the friendship between Cecilia and Eliza blossomed. Eliza, who had maintained a distant stance at first, began to open up more to Cecilia, seeing in her not only an ally, but also a true friend. They began to share their life stories, discovering that despite the differences in their origins, they had both faced great challenges and emerged stronger. This new friendship became a pillar of mutual support, and together, they dedicated themselves to helping other women find their own saint. As time passed, William and Eliza decided that the best path for both of them would be to move on, without trying to get back together. There was a lot of respect and affection between them, but the scars from the past were too deep to allow them to return to what they once were. Still, the decision not to get back together did not separate them. On the contrary, it solidified a partnership based on a common goal: to do good and, in some way, find redemption in the good deeds they performed. Cecilia, as she watched this new phase unfold, felt deeply grateful for having chosen to stay and face the challenges. She had not only helped heal the wounds of a broken family, but also found new purpose in her own life. The work she did alongside William and Eliza gave her a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. The Parker mansion, now revitalized and full of life, became a hub for fundraisers, motivational speeches, and events that supported the causes William and Eliza were passionate about. Cecilia, increasingly confident, began to be recognized as a leader within this new mission. Her humble background and personal struggles resonated with the stories of the people she helped, making her not just an organizer, but an inspirational figure to everyone around her. One spring afternoon, as Cecilia walked through the mansion's gardens, she reflected on how much her life had changed since she first crossed those doors. He remembered all the difficult choices he had to make, the temptations he faced, and the people he met along the way. He smiled when he thought about how worth it all had been. The young woman who once arrived there just looking for a job now had a greater purpose, true friends, and a life she never imagined possible. And so, the story of Cecilia, William, and Eliza became an example that, even in the midst of pain and regret, there is always room for growth, forgiveness, and building a better future. A year had passed since the gala event that marked William Parker's transformation and the reconciliation of his past with Eliza. The Parker Mansion, once a place of secrets and shadows, now pulsed with life and hope. The charitable work that William and Eliza started grew exponentially, reaching thousands of people across the country. Cecilia, as William's personal assistant and Eliza's partner, became a central figure in this movement. On a sunny autumn morning, Cecilia walked through the mansion's garden, now full of flowers that she herself had helped plant. He stopped for a moment next to a small fountain, watching the calm waters and reflecting on how much his life had changed. The cell phone vibrated in his pocket. It was a message from Eliza. "I got great news. We've gotten more support for the foundation. I'll meet you in the afternoon." Cecilia smiled, quickly responding, "I'll be there. I can't wait to see what comes next." Throughout that year, the friendship between Cecilia and Eliza deepened. Together they faced challenges and celebrated victories, each growing stronger in the other's company. Cecilia's journey from a young woman desperate for a second chance to the leader of a life-changing organization was something she never could have predicted. William, in turn, continued to work tirelessly to repair what he could. His relationship with Eliza became an example that even when romantic love cannot be recovered, respect and partnership can blossom from the ashes. He knew he couldn't erase the past, but he was dedicated to building a future that honored the people he had hurt. Starting with Eliza. One afternoon, Cecilia, William, and Eliza gathered at the mansion for a special celebration. They had reached a significant milestone, the opening of a new support center for vulnerable women, largely funded by William and Eliza's initiatives. The center, named in honor of Cecilia's mother, represented a complete cycle of healing and overcoming. Cecilia, looking to the future, felt at peace. "I knew that, regardless of the challenges that still came, I was prepared to face them with courage and determination." The story that began with mistrust and secrets had transformed into a journey of forgiveness, redemption, and growth. And so the Parker Mansion, once a symbol of pain and isolation, has become a beacon of hope, reminding everyone that, with effort and honesty, even the most painful mistakes can be turned into opportunities for good.